Guys, good morning again. Joe Sullivan from iRacing has just asked me to do a test run in the IndyCar. So Joe, I hope it's okay. I'm just running the DW12. As you know, the iRacing made some changes about 2.5, 3 years ago, which broke the force feedback on this car pretty badly. But with that said, I'm running the pinion at 6, which is the lowest it can go, so it feels really good. For Brion's information, the force feedback ratio is 0.595 specific output on this wheel, so round about this sort of 16-17 Newton meter level if the sim demands that. So pretty high torque. I think that most guys will realize this car is quite an animal, especially when it starts loading up with the downforce when you start doing high speed runs. So it's a bit of a workout even at this 15-16 Newton meter level. I will, however, do a run, a couple of laps first with it with the static force reduction filter disabled, so that you can get the maximum torque going through this or down the straights as the same as what you get into the turns. But then I'll just show you the effect also that if you enable the static force reduction filter, let's say to 50%, how really easy it is then to steer the car into the high speed turns, but you still get the full fidelity of the dynamic effects coming through from the track surface and the curbs, the ripple strips, etc. So I'll probably go through the carousel. I might run on the ripple strips so that you can see and you can actually hear what is coming through. And then let's see how it goes. I'll tell you when I will switch over to the static force reduction filter. We've got a new firmware last night that Mika has done for us as well. So there's a new safety feature built in. In the old days, in the old Argon days, we used to have some mishaps with iRacing force feedback model, as well as with the cars and the controllers and some safety features, and you'd get oscillatory behavior, which was pretty violent at some point in time when you hit the walls or the barriers or whatever. But with this, iRacing has made a fair few changes in the years gone by, and then of course Mika and the Granite guys have done some really good features or safety features with the new Simucube 2. We already saw some of that coming into play in Simucube 1, which is really a stable wheel. But with Simucube 2 they've gone another step further, so they've done actually a high torque mode, which you have to enable every time that you start the servo motor itself when you start your Simucube box. Then you've got to scroll through a dialog box and enable the high torque mode. So that's one safety feature. Another one is an actual watchdog timer running between the Simucube 2 processor and the drive controller processor. So there's a watchdog timer that if for any event you are having a timeout issue or a failure of communications from the sim to the controller, it will actually suspend the high torque mode and also go into then safe torque off mode, which is an emergency stop situation where you can still steer the car but you won't have any force feedback. So that's another safety feature. And then of course a third one that has been built in has now been activated overnight with this new firmware 50.6 that Mika shared with me. So in this instance, that if you actually run the car and you hit the barriers and walls, it will actually detect that when the moment you let go of the wheel, it will actually go into this safe torque mode, which is a 4 Newton meter mode, very lightweight torque, and it will actually stop the wheel motion as well until it detects that you're back onto the wheel and you start steering again. Then it will go back in or very smoothly ramp up into this safe mode, or from safe mode into this active mode again. So the torque off ramps down and the torque up ramps up again. So it's not abrupt on and off, but it's rather ramping if it goes into the safe torque mode when you hit the barriers and the walls. So I'm really impressed with what has happened here. And then also another feature, if you actually leave the wheel like this for a while, like said, it will most likely go and do a beep 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 sound every 2 minutes or every 3 minutes. I'll discuss with Mika and the team that we actually make that interval longer, maybe 10 minutes, so it's as a reminder when you're browsing the internet and your wheel is on, actually just to switch it off if you'd like to do that. Alright, let's have a quick go, and I'll do a couple of laps and then we can switch to this static force reduction filter, maybe 50%, maybe a real output then of 8 Newton meters at that point, and see how we go. As always, don't mind my driving, guys. I just come off the Pi Max after a couple of laps, and going back to the 2D mode is not easy. The worst thing coming from 3D to 2D environment is this apexes that I keep missing. It's a bit of a mission to adjust back and forth all the time. The The carousel always loads up this IndyCar wheel, so nice going through there. Just letting go of the wheel, it's stable. And you can just look at the behavior as well. For Breon's information, I've got the damping at 5 on the old Simucube one, or 50% on the new one, and friction is at 20, and then inertia at 5 or 50 as well. So a lot of noise coming through, all the surface effects is coming through. What I love about this car and direct drive wheels is you can actually feel how the car loads up, especially up at this carousel when you're going through those high speed turns. You can feel how the aero loads up the car. Let's do one more lap. With the static force reduction filter off, and then I'll activate it. I'll just run on the ripple strips here through the carousel. Hopefully you guys pick that up. So as you guys can see, it requires a fair bit of effort to actually drive the car at this 15-16 Newton meter level. And let's go and do the static force reduction thing. Let's go crazy and let's switch it to 50%. And then I can also change the static force reduction speed as well as the linearity of the force coming in and going out. But let's leave it linear. It's nice and fine that way for me. And let's see how that goes. Immediately you can see that as soon as I go through the turns, it's really nice and easy to steer. Just one hand, nice and simple. while on the straights I can feel it requires the same amount of torque. But going through here, it's so simple and easy now. So I would imagine there's probably 7 or 8 Newton meters level now. And I guess some of you may ask the question, how does it come in and out? You don't feel it. By saying that, it's a bumpless transfer, so it linearly reduces and then in a linear fashion reintroduce the torque as you start to straighten out the wheel. So smooth, so simple. I'm just not used to these light torque levels. It's about muscle memory, I guess. You've got to learn how to drive with low torque or no torque. And I know a few guys at iRacing has commented over the years that direct drive wheels are just so heavy when you turn, when you go into these high speed turns. I guess this is the best of both worlds, where you have all the fidelity coming through on the straights and in the turns, but you have a torque reduction going into these turns. So the turning torque reduces, but the fidelity remains the same level, at least according to what I can feel coming through the wheel. I can actually sit there with just one hand and casually turn. This is how light it is. Let's do one more lap. So as you can clearly see, there's a lot of torque coming through the wheel when you hit the ripple strips and those, but the turning effort required is very low. So one more thing that I have to mention is that I had a chat to Mika. There was something slightly off with the slew rate filter. It didn't work that well together with this reconstruction filter, but he has fixed that overnight. That's why I've got this new patch this morning to run quickly. Well, I can say Mika, it's doing a lot better. It's the graininess has gone around the center together with the reconstruction filter. So I've got the reconstruction filter now at 5, and then the slew rate filter at 1, so it feels really good, and very similar if you only ran the reconstruction filter at 8, so you have the same sort of effect. So just a bit of feedback there, guys. I hope that you find this useful, and again, I'll do another video or two perhaps over the weekend. Let's see how it goes. Over and out.